Hey everybody, this is Matt here from Cincy Jungle. We are finally here. It is draft week and just around the corner, we've got Joe Burrow joining the Cincinnati Bengals. So very exciting time to be a Bengals fan, something we've waited quite a long time for, to have that guy to that caliber of player that you really think can change the destiny of the franchise, kind of change where you're heading with things. So exciting time here as we get right down to it. I don't see how it can go any other way. People will be people shouldn't be taking to the streets. People will be taking to the streets in Cincinnati, though, if it goes any other way. So this has got to be it, right? This is it, right? And very very excited to be here. So coming into the draft now, wanted to take a few questions, see what where people's heads are at, and talk a little bit about what's going to happen here over the next few days. So the first question I have was about trading the 33rd overall pick. Now, I think this is something that's really popular with a lot of people. All right, some people are like, trade it. And it makes some sense. Look, the Bengals have a lot of holes. They only have 7 draft picks. This is a weird place for us to be in as Bengals fans, only having 7 draft picks, because generally they have those compensatory picks. So they have more to work with. We don't have that this year. So a little bit different. And obviously you could use them, and you'd love to be able to pick up some picks somewhere in the mid rounds, in the third and the fourth, and go up into the kind of that area, especially with the depth at the receiver position. For example, the fact that I think a lot of linebackers fall into that third or fourth round category, who could be pretty good players for us. So I think you really want to get as many picks as you can. And we were hoping to get some picks for Andy Dalton. Hasn't happened yet. We'll see. Maybe somebody misses out on somebody in round 1 or something, and something happens. I don't know. So we'll see about that. Now, trading the 33rd pick. Yes, you want picks, but here's the thing. I want to know who's there at 33, because if I got somebody that's top 20 on my board sitting there, I want that guy. And you look at recent history. Look, a lot of times teams need to trade up to get that number 1 pick, but teams also kind of trying to set themselves up to have multiple first-round picks to take that quarterback. So obviously it's a different scenario when you're the Houston Texans trading up to get Deshaun, when you're the Kansas City Chiefs trading up to get Patrick Mahomes. But you look at the scenario like with Buffalo, they got 2 first-round picks that year, and they traded up with the Bengals in an exchange, and they traded up again to get to where they needed to be to get Josh Allen. And there was a lot of talk about, well, they're going to use both those picks to move up. They didn't. They kept that pick. They got a really good defensive player, Tremaine Edmonds. So I think there's definitely a lot of value to that, to being able to get another first-round kind of guy, have that quarterback plus. We saw something similar last year with the Washington Redskins. They took Dwayne Haskins. They traded back into the first and got Montez Sweat. Now that they're sitting in perfect position to get Chase Young, they probably regret doing that. But there is a precedent for it. So I think if you can sit there at 33 and see what happens, see what falls, and if you can find somebody who you think can be an impact player for you, doesn't have to be right now. All right, could be in year 2. But if you can find somebody that can be a first-round caliber player and get them and pair them in that same year with Joe Burrow, I mean, that's a great situation to be in. So I want to know who's going to be there. And particularly in this year when there's a little bit limited information on prospects, so you don't have all the medicals, you don't have as much face-to-face meeting. You get this, you get the FaceTime, but you don't have the in-person stuff. So if you don't feel comfortable with as many guys, I'm comfortable with taking the higher picks and not picking up lower picks. So yeah, if you can get that guy, if you think you can, if a guy slips and you think he can be the starting right tackle in the year, you think he's going to be the receiver you're going to pair with with Joe Burrow for the majority of his career. Somebody who can be a real impact guy. If you can get them at that 33rd pick, you don't trade it, in my opinion. Unless somebody offers you, a great package, you definitely listen. You're not listening for the first pick because you get Joe Burrow, but you listen for the second round pick. You listen for the second round pick. You listen for that 33rd overall. So that's my take on it. Would I trade it? Yes. I want to know who's there first, because then you can really put a value on the pick. What is Josh Jones worth to you? What is Denzel Mims worth to you? All right, versus what is Cesar Ruiz worth to you, or what is, I don't know, Brandon Ayuk, or Kenneth Murray, one of those guys. What is that worth to you really? And you've got time. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it fast. You get, you get to go to bed. You get to sleep on it. You get to think about it in the morning. You got a little time because you're in that position. I do. Now, I think that position is valuable, and I think part of it is that people have time to think about it and to really covet a player that's at the top and like, okay, I'm going to make a move. But I think that's a little bit limited too, because if you really want the guy, you move back into the first, particularly for the quarterback position where, it's kind of where you would expect people to target and move up. I don't think Jordan Love will, go to the end of the first. He's not going to make it out of the first. But, I mean, if somebody wants to get into the, go up to get Hurts or Eason or Fromm even maybe. I don't know. I think the 49ers are probably their target. And the 49ers, they picked up another first, but they still have very limited draft capital. And it would probably make sense for them to try and get a stud receiver at that first pick if they can, and then trade that lower pick, go back, pick up some more picks, because they are very limited on their draft capital. So that's how I think that could trade down. Now, in terms of the 33rd pick, another, question here regarding the 33rd pick, that I guess kind of ties in. I kind of already said a little bit of this already, but look, you want that first round caliber guy. You want that. Hopefully you're getting a guy who's in, who's top 20, top 25 on your board. I keep hearing stuff about Jeff Gladney falling. Man, if Jeff Gladney's there, that might have to be the pick. I mean, I get that they just signed a couple of corners and, safety as well. Jackson's contract's coming up. Jackson's been a little bit up and down. You can never have too many guys that are really good in coverage. So, I mean, if a Gladney's there, I think you gotta pull the trigger on that, because he's a borderline top 10 guy to me. I think I had him 11 on my big board. So, that's the kind of guy you want to go for. AJ Epinesa, Yatir Gross-Matos, they're a little bit different, a little bit less twitchy than some other ends. Could they fit into our system, into what we want to do? I think AJ Epinesa could in a big way. I think when they get into the 3-4 stuff, and a lot of that's really more of an underfront, they're playing with a 5 technique. He's a D-tackle tweener that I think is perfect to be that guy, and he can still be an edge in the 4-3 looks, which is really the nickel and the dime package. So, and it gives you something a little different in pass rush too, because he's a strong guy. He's a stronger guy. He can get after the quarterback a little bit that way, as opposed to with pure speed, with what you're getting out of other edge rushers. It's a great compliment, interesting guy to throw in. You got Carl Lawson coming in. He's got some strength, but some speed and some moves there too. And you throw in some different kind of moves with Hubbard, and then you throw in Epinesa. That is throwing a lot of different things at an offensive line. So that gives you something interesting there. I don't love the fit with Gross-Matos, but he's another guy that's kind of a borderline first-round guy that I could see slipping in there. And somebody to think about. Zach Bond, I think, really should go in the first round. The diluted sample thing, I don't care. I mean, we'll see how much people do. He's coming in a little bit light, but I still think you draft him, and you draft him as an edge. And if you can turn him into a linebacker, great. But I think he can play edge, particularly as a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker type of guy. He can do that, and he can contribute as a role player, as a change-up pass rusher in that way. So I like, I like Bond. I like what he does. That's another guy that if he falls, and then pick your favorite receiver. I think a lot of people in the fan base are Denzel Mims fans. There's some Jalen Reagor fans out there. I think Reagor goes round one. I don't think Mims does. So if you want him, I think you might have a shot at him. But I think we know the three that are going to go. I think Jefferson's going to go. I think those four are just about a sure thing. I think Reagor could be the next one to go. T. Higgins, maybe he's an option with that spot. Didn't test well, but that's not really how he won, on film. So it doesn't really matter. Who knows? That's something you got to gauge. It's something you got to think about. And it comes down to what you want out of that position. Offensive tackle, I think there's going to be a serious run on offensive tackle. My gut tells me I don't want one at 33. Again, we'll see who's there. But in this situation, we know the four that are going to go. And then there's rumors about Isaiah Wilson, too rich for my blood. There's rumors about Ezra Cleveland, too rich for my blood. There's, Yang's got a big following. Austin Jackson's a guy that's been talked about in the first round. I mean, I think 7 or 8 could go. It could definitely happen. We could see a run on tackles, and great, that's going to push some other stuff back. So we'll see where we're at with that. I don't want to push it, and I think a few of those guys are kind of pushing it. There are definitely some options I like, and I think there's some options later on. I don't think that they think they need that position as much as we do. Fans want another tackle. I think that if the right guy falls, they'll take him, but I don't think they see it as a priority. And that kind of leads me into the next thing I was going to talk about here. Questions about what our team needs. What are the Bengals needs going into the draft? And I think they did a pretty good job in free agency of kind of addressing things. So look, you want to come out of the draft as a better team, but I don't think they need to focus those picks on a specific position to do that. I think they did enough in free agency. They went up, they went out and revamped the secondary. They brought in Bynes at linebacker, getting an upgrade there. Sure, we want to find somebody that's more of a pass coverage, more of a faster guy, but we can live with Bynes. They're going to need depth. We can live with Bynes. DJ Reader was, a bump up defensive tackle that I don't think we even really expected. Xavier Suafilo, gives you a little something at guard. Where they still have guys competing at guard. They got Bobby Hart to tackle. I think they feel a lot better about than we do. And they've got Fred Johnson in there that can work in and push him as well. Tight end's fine. I think people might have had too high of expectations for CJ Uzomah. He had a couple of drops, but I thought Uzomah was fine last year. And they got Drew Sample, and they're going to give Drew Sample a shot too. Wide receiver, not an immediate need, but obviously there's injury concerns and contract issues past this year. So, you're going to look to make a move there at some point. Running back, even with the Joe Mixon thing that isn't even really a thing yet, they got a bunch of guys there. So draft Joe Burrow and best player available. You know what I mean? It'd be great to get some of these guys. It'd be great to get some depth, in particular at linebacker, at edge. If you can find somebody who's going to eventually be the guy at receiver, who's going to eventually be the guy or just going to give you an instant upgrade on the offensive line, great. You don't have to do that super early at guard. You do a tackle. Tackles will go pretty fast. But then there's guys like Prince Tegawanago that had some injury concerns. We don't know how big they are, and maybe you get a steal on him. There's Hakeem Adeniji is one of my favorites from Kansas. He's projected pretty low too. He might have to bump inside. Some think, but there are some options there. There's some guys you can go for. And at the guard spot, it's just finding what you're looking for. And sometimes you can find those guys a little bit later. Now, they like guys who are athletic. And we saw that with Suafilo coming in. That's a guy that can pull, that can do some things on the move. Check out my video on him if you haven't yet, and some of the things he did in Dallas last year. So the more athletic guys in this draft are probably going to go a little faster, and that's where you see Cesar Ruiz, and he's probably going to be maybe a late first rounder. He'll go at some point in the second round, though, if not. And who knows about Cushenberry? But he's a guy that can move around pretty well too. But you can find guys a little bit later that probably aren't going to be quite as athletic, but maybe can come in and push some of these guys. Your Damian Lewis's. Tyler Biadasz, I think, is a great option, but comes with an injury concern as well. Hennessy, a good option as well. A lot of these guys play center, by the way, but center guard, whatever, they can figure that out. So there are some different options there, to come in and make an impact. But the point I'm trying to make is they need to not feel pressured, and I think they set themselves up in free agency to not feel like, well, I got to take a linebacker at 33. Well, hey, it'd be great if you can take a guy that's going to be really good, but the guy's not there. The guy's not there. I think Patrick Queen and Kenneth Murray at that position at 33 deserve consideration. The rest of the crew, not for me. Not at 33 anyway. I think you look at it a little bit later, and 65 is a completely different story. Top of the third, completely different story. I'm definitely on board with the Davis Gaither, with some of these other guys, Malik Harrison, and some of the other guys that we talked about at that linebacker position. There's a handful of them that I think are real good options in that third round. Willie Gay Jr. All right, so we can talk about those guys, but again, let's not push the envelope. Let's not get too excited about anything. And if you're sitting there and Jeff Gladney falls to 33, and you're like, you just spent a bunch of money on defensive back, you're probably feeling pretty good about your defensive backfield right now, but you're looking at it and you're saying, he's number 12 on our board, and the next highest guy's number 28. Batter up. Like take him. Like take that dude. That's what you got to do. So they did a good job in free agency of setting themselves up and being able to do that, in my opinion. So that is it. I want to keep this pretty short. Just had a few questions in here to get to address. So thank you for everybody that put those in. But hey, we've got lots of great content coming up this week on Cincy Jungle and Orange and Black Insider. So be checking that out. Anthony and John have some great guests today, and in the past few days. So make sure you are going back and checking that stuff out. If you missed anything, former Bengals, all types of guys in there. Go ahead and check that stuff up. We're going to have a couple of pre-draft shows coming up too. Those guys are going to have one on Wednesday. We've got one kind of the super show on Tuesday night. That's going to have basically combining all the Orange Black Insider shows. We're going to have the whole crew out there. So definitely check that thing out. And we'll have our pre-draft show. They're going to do a draft show during the draft. And then Thursday and Friday nights, I'll be on. I believe Tim's going to come on. We probably have some other people on there as well. But we're just going to talk about what happened that day, kind of a reaction, but then also, hey, what's going to happen tomorrow? So we'll talk about that Thursday night. We just talked about 33 a little bit here. Thursday night, we'll have a much more educated conversation on that when we say, hey, this guy's here. Or we can say, I don't know about this board. Maybe we do want to trade this pick. So that'll be great. We're going to do that live right after the draft is over on Thursday, and we'll follow up on Friday, talking about some day 3 stuff as well. So make sure you're coming back and checking this stuff out. We'll talk about this is a great thing too. We can get out there right away. The draft is over for the day, and guess who's up first in the next day is the Bengals. So we've had quite a while. We've had several weeks to talk about the first pick, but then we'll have a little bit of time there to talk about the 33rd. We'll have a little bit of time to talk about 107, I think it is, whatever the first pick in the 4th round is. So yeah, come back, check out all that stuff, and thanks for checking us out today.